enormous number of inequalities worldwide: racial, political, and economic, just to name a few. Being just humans, it's impossible to combat them all. For example, despite all the work put in to improve the living conditions for women worldwide, United Nations statistics show that only 39% of rural girls receive a secondary education, which is far fewer than the rural boys. And a survey by the Anadolu Agency shows that 64% of Americans believe that racism still exists in their society despite the civil rights movement. And though communist countries claim to have solved inequality, they've only addressed economic or financial inequality, whereas many more continue to exist. If it is so difficult to eradicate one major inequality, how can we ever hope to eradicate them all?
I'm in my hometown right now. Most of the population here consists of the elderly, around the age of 60. My body can't handle as much physical and mental stress as it once could. Now, would it be fair for us to suddenly change and restructure their lives on a whim to have a small chance at equality that may or may not stop the climate change? The problem doesn't stop with people who don't have the means to combat inequality or the climate crisis. Factory owners, contractors, the rich who control and drive most of our economy. Those people live luxurious lives which they most definitely wouldn't give away selflessly, and most of them probably rose to their position therein by being selfish. Unfortunately, a lot of us are unable or unwilling to change the status quo.
As we humans are ambitious, we have always strived to be better than others. Therefore, there will definitely be issues as to who will be willing to contribute funds and resources to solve this climate crisis. For example, refugees contribute to climate change because they lead improper lifestyles. However, what would we do about it? Would we ask the host country to fund them, or would we ask rich, developed countries to fund them? Both of these are actually more unfair because they just promote more inequality, as we expect different countries to fund different amounts. Since the Industrial Revolution, global greenhouse gas emissions have increased from a negligible amount to over 40 billion tons per year. USA has the largest carbon footprint in the world of any country. This shows that poverty and economic inequality does not affect climate change, as the richest countries, representing 16% of the population, actually contribute to 40% of the carbon emissions. Some countries might even go further to argue that if MDCs have used fossil fuels and built industries to develop themselves, then why can't developing countries do the same thing if we're fighting for equality? Therefore, trying to be equal can actually worsen the impending climate change.
Some countries, such as Indonesia, have always been affected by natural disasters. Doesn't it sound ridiculous to tell ourselves that addressing racial inequality will somehow solve this? Furthermore, others believe that LDCs are more affected by climate change. But the truth is that geographically, countries in the tropical and frigid zones that are prone to extreme temperatures are the most affected. This has no concern with whether they are developing or not. They tend to develop more slowly because they are impacted by climate change, and not the other way around.
For example, the US government has confirmed that they will spend $44.9 billion on addressing climate change in 2023, a 60% increase from 2021. However, since 1990, they have spent over $23 trillion on addressing inequalities. If all of this money was instead put towards addressing climate change, the results would have been much more effective. Even if we somehow manage to combat all inequalities, there are still other factors contributing to climate change, such as the reflectivity and absorption of sun's rays, variation in solar activities, and the change in the orbit and rotation of the Earth. And already it's too late to try and solve all inequalities, because they're already parts of our planet that we have abandoned due to the climate change. Instead of wasting time and funds in solving inequality,
We should focus on scientific research in order to enhance alternate energy sources
And save our planet from the climate crisis.
there's no use in trying to solve inequalities because
The worst form of inequality is to try to make unequal things equal, by Aristotle.
we hope that teams pro 4 and con 4 will have a truthful and respectful debate.